Hello everybody, it's a pleasure for me to be giving this talk about how to use the software Itk-Snap for segmentation of brain MRI scans. So let's get started. This is the guide we prepared and we will share the link to it so that you can access it whenever you want. First, before using Itk-Snap, obviously you have to download it. This is the link for downloading the app. You just gotta choose the version that's suitable for your operating system and install it on your computer. After you open the application, you'll see this page. Depending on the version, it can and whether you have used the app before or not, it can look differently. Like for example, when I open my Itk-Snap software, it just shows me the last cases I worked on. The next step before segmenting is to load the images into Itk-Snap. So you will receive folders with the cases, and for every case there is a zip file, and you gotta unzip this file. And after unzipping the files, your folder will look like this. So you will have the cases, and you have the segmentation files. We'll just discuss that in a minute. So in order for the zip files to not get in the way and you can focus only on the files you actually need, you can just sort the files according to their type so that only the NII extension files are on the top. Let me show what I mean. So here's the folder with my case. I open the folder and I have already extracted the zip files containing every sequence. So what I do is click on the type. So right now I have all the files I need on the top, and the zip files don't get in my way. So, as I told you, I've just spent a minute talking about what these files actually contain. So, these files with the extension NII and the sequence written in the file name obviously contain the MRI sequences T1, T1 post-contrast, T2, and flare sequence. And in some folders, in regards to some cases, you might find the subtraction file, and this file provides you with the subtraction imaging. It's basically the T1 post-contrast image with the intrinsic T1 signal digitally subtracted, and this sequence is pretty helpful for finding small meta. So these files contain the pre-segmentations you'll be correcting, and sometimes it's only one, and sometimes there are several, and you're not obliged to use a specific one of them. You can just choose the one you think that best represents the ground truth segmentation. So in the beginning of every case you start working on, you can check every pre-segmentation and find out which one you feel more comfortable correcting. So let's get to the next step, how to open the MRI images and sequences in Itk-Snap. And it's pretty easy, you just drag the files to the Itk-Snap software. And you start with one main image, your main sequence, and then for every other sequence you add, you just click on load as additional image. So what I have found to be helpful is to open the sequences in the exact same order every single time, just because I get used to where the sequence is within the software when I'm working. So I don't have to look to the side of the screen in order to select another sequence. I just, without looking, know where it is, and it will help you create a workflow. And I guess you'll figure out that for yourself, but still, I think it's easier this way. Let me show what I mean by that. So I have the software, and as I told you, I open the folder with the case and the sequences. So I always start with T1 post contrast. It's just personal preference. I start with it. I drag the file to the Itk-Snap window, and then for every other sequence, I just click load as additional image. So I always start with T1 post contrast, and then I load the flare sequence. These are the major sequences on which you'll be working. So I just click load as an additional image. So I already have the T1 post contrast, the flare. Then I always proceed with loading T1 and then loading T2. So here you see a small button, and clicking this button allows you to allows for only one orientation of the slices to be visualized on the screen. So I click here, and you only see the transversal slices. So as I said, when I'm working and I have to toggle between the different sequences, I always know that T1 post contrast in the top, flare is here, T1 pre contrast is here, T2 is here. So I don't even have to look to the side of the screen. I just click here, and I immediately switch the sequence. Here in the presentation, I depict what I mean by this again. So we get to the next step, which is how to load the pre-segmentation file that you have to correct. Here, as you can see, the file that we have chosen, we just drag it to the Itk-Snap window and just click load as segmentation right here. So after we have selected the pre-segmentation we want to be working on, our next step is to adjust the contrast so that we can easily visualize tumors and different findings in an optimal contrast. I usually always click auto adjust contrast, which in most of the cases works perfectly fine, but sometimes you get to manually adjust the contrast so that you can ease the process of seeing what you want to see and segment what you want to segment. As you can see here, if you click contrast adjustment and not auto adjust, a separate window pops up, and here you can manually adjust the contrast. And at first, at least I have had trouble with manually adjusting it. It felt I didn't know what these lines were doing, but with time you just get used to it, and you get pretty successful in adjusting the contrast the way you want it to be, so that the process of segmenting is made easier for you. So the next step you gotta do is to import the label descriptions. And as you can see here, the segmentation labels are depicted, and you see label 1. Let me show you on the software. See label 1, label 2, label 3, label 4 and 5, and you just wonder what color is for what. And by importing label descriptions, you make this process much easier. So by importing the label descriptions, instead of having the labels named as label 1, label 2, label 3, you have the labels named with the finding you're about to segment with this label. So let me show you. So this is the case. I click on segmentation. I click on import label descriptions, and I find the file with the label descriptions. So the file looks like this. It only contains 3 labels for now, but for the next year's challenge we'll be incorporating hemorrhage and resection cavity as well, so you have 2 more additional labels. But I'll just show you the principle with this file. So we already incorporated the label descriptions. What's left to do is to load the segmentation, the pre-segmentation. And for this case, there is only one pre-segmentation file, so we just drag it, load it as segmentation. And before proceeding, let me just show you what happened when we imported the label descriptions. Here, see, instead of label 1, label 2, label 3, it is written, the names are different. It is written necrotic core tumor on the red label, and it is written flare hyperintensity on the green label, and it basically shows you what type of finding you have to segment with this color. So let's start with these buttons over here. As you can see, earlier we adjusted the view so that only the transversal planes are seen. And by clicking here, you can see all the planes, but we just gotta bring the crosshair here so that you can see that now we have all the planes. Sometimes when I'm wondering if a small mat is part of is actually a vessel or is really a mat, I might turn to those planes to evaluate the situation better and judge whether this small enhancement is a small brain mat or a vessel. And if you want to, which is rarely needed by the way, but if you want to focus only on one plane, you can just click here or here, and now you see that only the coronal planes are taking all the attention. Let me just bring it to transversal planes, and let's click here. By clicking this button, you can see all the sequences together. Sometimes it's helpful to have all the sequences side by side. And the last thing I want to show you is by clicking here, you can, as I said, see all the sequences together. And by exiting this mode and just keeping it like this and clicking here so that you can see all the different planes, you can go to this field over here and update the 3D reconstruction of the segmentation. And as you can see, we have only one metastasis labeled. So let's find this metastasis. The first thing I do when I start a case is to just not focus on lesions, not focus on the label, just go from top to bottom or bottom to top through the case so that I can orient myself on what I'm gonna be dealing with, and it will help me to create quote unquote battle plan for how to handle the case. So I just scroll through the case to know what I'm gonna be dealing with, and then I focus on the separate lesions. So let me just briefly describe the controls. So here you have the crosshair, and wherever you click on the crosshair, when you go to different planes, the crosshair remains on the same voxel. So if, for example, I want to mark this and look at it in the chrono plane, instead of searching for this lesion here, I just click on it using the crosshair and see, voila, on the chrono plane, it's showing me the center of the crosshairs, i.e. the lesion I'm looking at. So here's the loop, the zoom inspector, and by clicking the right mouse button, you can zoom in, zoom out, and with the left button you can move the image. So actually, to be honest, I prefer using this mode, but it depends on your personal preference. So I just easily zoom in, zoom out, move, and I use move around the move the slicer on the screen, and I'm using the middle button of the mouse to just scroll through the slices. And I can also, by clicking the middle button of the mouse, I can also play with the crosshair. So the next mode that we're going to be using is the paintbrush mode. It's actually our most important instrument for segmenting. Here you can choose the width of the paintbrush and also the size. I usually use the circle shape, and usually I like to be very precise, so most of the time I'm using brush size 1. I increase the brush size only if I have to remove some big mistake or label some large area of edema that hasn't been labeled so far. So you constantly have to toggle between paintbrush mode and zoom inspector in order to navigate, but you easily get used to it. So now we have selected the label and we can use it by clicking the right button of the mouse. And here you can select over what you can use this label, like over all the visible labels, only over the voxels which haven't been colored, or only over the voxels which have previously been labeled as necrotic core of the tumor or flare hyperintensity, and yada yada yada. So I would just like to open some more representative case so that we can use the label tools more extensively. I will just load only the two sequences because it's only for demonstration. I will just add some random segmentation. So here it is. As I said previously, I just go from top to bottom to just get myself oriented within the case. I auto adjust the contrast, and after I have oriented myself, I just start looking for mistakes and how to fix them. Like here, for example, you see this is not enhancing part of the tumor. This is a necrotic part of the tumor, non-enhancing part, which is in direct contact with the tumor edema, and this is a mistake. The non-enhancing part of the tumor, or just the necrosis within the tumor, should be surrounded by enhancing part and not being in direct contact with the edema. So what we do now is just I assess the situation better. I see that there is some more enhancing part of the tumor around this necrotic part. So my job would be to just use the yellow label to just continue labeling this tumor and segmenting it. So I won't do the whole process. I just want to show you how to use labels. For example, if I have gone too far, I can just click the right button and delete, but you can delete with the right button only labels with bearing the same color as the selected label. So if I click here and I want to use the right button to delete the yellow color, it won't happen. And yeah, so the next step is to just like closely assess the lesion and slightly go and try to fix the mistakes if there are any made by the pre-segmentation algorithm. I always have, I always keep in mind the fact that the Itk-Snap might crash, so I just frequently save my progress. I just save the segmentation file in the directory which is convenient for you. So yeah, this would be my advice for you. Don't forget to frequently save your segmentations. So that was it for now. It was a pleasure for me to be giving this small talk about Itk-Snap. I hope everything was clear. If there are some questions or there is something that's still not cleared up, you can always reach out to our team or check the menu again. Thank you very much for your time.